At 42, I remember standing in front of the mirror one morning, wondering how my body had changed so much without me even noticing it happening. The strange part wasn't just the belly fat, it was everything surrounding it. The exhaustion that followed me through the day. The nights staring at the ceiling even when my body felt tired. The lack of motivation. The slow disappearance of energy, focus, and even desire. And what confused me the most was that I was trying harder than ever before. I cut calories. I skipped meals. I pushed myself through exhausting workouts because I believed what most people believe after 40, that gaining belly fat was simply the price of aging. That metabolism slows down, discipline fades, and the body just lets go. But something about that explanation never felt complete. Because I knew people who barely exercised and stayed lean. I knew others who lived in the gym but kept gaining abdominal fat no matter how strict their diet became. And little by little, I started realizing the problem wasn't just food. It was the entire internal environment of the body changing after 40 in ways most people never fully understand. What shocked me first was discovering that belly fat after 40 is often less about overeating and more about survival signals inside the body. Most people don't realize this, but the body responds very differently to stress in your 40s than it did in your 20s. Lack of sleep hits harder, recovery slows down, hormonal fluctuations become more noticeable. And the worst part is that many of the habits people adopt to fix belly fat actually make the problem worse. Extreme dieting, excessive cardio, constant fasting, overtraining while sleeping only 5 or 6 hours a night. At first, those strategies may create small temporary changes, but over time, they often increase cortisol, the stress hormone deeply connected to abdominal fat storage. That's the part nobody explained to me. The body doesn't separate emotional stress from physical stress. Poor sleep, emotional overload, restrictive diets, inflammation, excessive exercise. The body interprets all of it as pressure. And when cortisol remains elevated for long periods, the body begins holding on to fat, especially around the abdomen. Suddenly, things started connecting. The insomnia wasn't isolated. The low libido wasn't random. The stubborn belly fat wasn't simply laziness or lack of willpower. They were all part of the same conversation happening inside the body. And honestly, I think that realization alone is emotional for a lot of people watching this right now. Because there are millions of men and women over 40 blaming themselves every single day while silently fighting symptoms they can't fully explain. You wake up tired even after sleeping. Your energy crashes in the afternoon. Your motivation disappears. You gain weight, eating the same way you always did. Your belly feels harder to lose no matter how disciplined you become. And eventually you start wondering if your body is simply broken. But what if it isn't? What if your body is actually responding exactly the way a stressed, sleep-deprived, hormonally overloaded body is designed to respond? That changes everything. Research over the last several years has shown strong connections between chronic stress, disrupted sleep, cortisol imbalance, insulin resistance, and abdominal fat accumulation, especially after 40, when hormonal resilience naturally shifts. The body becomes more sensitive to recovery, inflammation, and metabolic stress. And this is where things become dangerous, because many people panic and double down. They eat less, train harder, sleep less, push more, and unknowingly trap themselves deeper inside the cycle. I remember reading about how sleep deprivation alone can increase hunger hormones while reducing hormones tied to satiety and recovery. In other words, your body begins craving energy while simultaneously slowing down its ability to efficiently burn stored fat. And then there's testosterone and estrogen balance. Both men and women experience hormonal changes after 40 that directly influence fat storage, energy production, muscle retention, mood, and libido. When sleep quality drops and stress remains chronically high, those hormonal disruptions become even stronger. That's why so many people notice these symptoms arriving together: belly fat, low energy, poor sleep, brain fog, low libido, slow recovery. It's rarely just one thing. And once I understood that, I stopped viewing belly fat as merely cosmetic. I started seeing it as feedback, a silent signal from the body saying something deeper was out of balance. That realization completely changed the way I approached health. Instead of punishing the body, I started supporting it. Instead of asking, how can I burn more calories? I started asking, why does my body feel unsafe enough to store this fat in the first place? That shift matters more than most people realize, because when the body finally feels supported instead of attacked, things begin changing in ways that feel almost surprising. Sleep improves, energy stabilizes, cravings decrease, recovery gets easier, the body becomes responsive again. And no, this isn't about magic solutions or fake overnight transformations. It's about understanding biology instead of fighting against it. That's why we left a practical guide in the first link in the description for people over 40 struggling with belly fat, insomnia, and low energy, even after trying multiple diets without success. Sometimes one small shift in understanding can completely change the direction of your health. One of the most eye-opening things I learned was that recovery is not weakness. Recovery is metabolism. People underestimate how deeply the body depends on quality sleep, stable blood sugar, balanced stress levels, and proper hormonal signaling to regulate fat storage. And, ironically, many healthy habits become harmful when done excessively in a stressed body. Too much fasting, too much cardio, too little recovery, too much caffeine, too little sleep. The body interprets all of it as threat. And when survival signals stay activated long enough, fat storage around the abdomen becomes part of the body's protective response. That's why after 40, strategy matters more than punishment. Small, consistent changes often outperform extreme discipline. Prioritizing sleep suddenly matters more than another hour on the treadmill. Strength training becomes more valuable than endless cardio. Managing stress becomes metabolic health. Eating enough protein and nourishing foods becomes hormonal support instead of restriction. And slowly, the body begins responding again. Not because you forced it, but because you finally understood it. I think that's the emotional turning point many people need to hear today. You are not failing simply because your body changed after 40. Your body changed because it's adapting to a different stage of life that requires a different strategy. And once you understand that, guilt starts disappearing. You stop hating your body. You stop believing you're lazy. You stop chasing punishment disguised as health. And you begin working with your biology instead of against it. That's also why so many people are now focusing on approaches that support sleep quality, hormone balance, inflammation control, muscle preservation, and nervous system recovery, rather than obsessing only over calories. Because the body after 40 is listening to far more than food. It's listening to stress. It's listening to recovery. It's listening to hormones. It's listening to sleep. And when those systems improve together, fat loss often becomes a side effect of better internal balance. That's why we also explained in the pinned comment a natural and sustainable method for men and women over 40 who want to improve sleep, restore libido, and finally unlock healthy weight loss without extreme diets or exhausting routines. At the end of all this, the biggest lesson I learned is surprisingly simple. Aging itself is not the enemy. Misunderstanding the body is. Because once you finally understand why belly fat gets worse after 40, you stop treating yourself like a problem that needs punishment. You start recognizing that the body is constantly communicating through symptoms, energy levels, sleep patterns, cravings, mood, and metabolism. And the beautiful part is this: the body can recover. Science continues showing that sleep improvement, stress reduction, strength training, proper nutrition, hormonal support, and consistent recovery habits can dramatically improve metabolic health even later in life. The body remains adaptable, responsive, capable of change. Growing older does not automatically mean losing vitality, confidence, energy, or control over your health. Sometimes it simply means the old strategies no longer work. And the real solution begins the moment you finally understand why. And if this video helped you connect those pieces together in a way nobody had explained before, subscribe to the channel and stay with us. Because there's an entire conversation about health after 40 that most people are still missing. And understanding it may completely change the way you experience the next decades of your life.